All right, well, we're having some audio issues here, so it looks like we're going to have to get just a little bit creative. All right, so this presentation is going to be on the evolution of cancer. So the evolution of cancer is really going to start with a mutation. In some cases, you're going to need up to 5 or more to develop. Statistically speaking, that is pretty rare. However, once the cancer really starts to form, the mutations are going to happen a lot faster in those cancerous cells than in regular cells, since they're dividing so much faster. So once you get the mutations that start to form, you're going to get the formation of a tumor. Now, keep in mind that not all tumors are going to be cancerous. You get something called hyperplasia, which is just going to be a normal response to demand on a tissue. So, for example, if you're a guitar player, you can start to form calluses. Now, that doesn't mean that cancer is now developed, cancerous tumor is now developed in your fingers. Again, it's just a normal response to demand on tissue. However, then you start to get something called dysplasia, which is where you start to find unusual cell types in the tissues, ones that probably should not be there. And we also call that premalignant. And that's going to lead us into our next part, which is that there's 2 types of tumors. You're going to get a benign tumor and a malignant tumor. Now, benign tumors, those are non-cancerous. Those are going to be localized, like in the example of the guitar player. Obviously, that callus is not going to spread to another part of the body. However, in malignant tumors, those are going to be cancerous, and those are going to spread. And again, they can start to turn into invasive cancer, which is something that we're really going to want to avoid if you are treating cancer. So through these mutations, cancer is going to start to evolve. Just like other organisms, cancer cells are going to face evolutionary pressures, and it's going to undergo a process of natural selection. So one pressure that they face is the availability of nutrients and oxygen. It's pretty important for any cell to grow, mind you. But this is also super sparse at the center of a tumor, which is keep switching on me there. Super important to know that. So then you also have the spread of cells, which is going to be another evolutionary pressure. Once it starts to spread to other parts of the body, it's going to be a completely new environment. Chances are it's going to be in a new tissue. It's going to really need to adapt there. And something to keep in mind also is that diversity of cancer cells is bad. You're going to want to get cancer when it's in these early stages of mutations. Chances are by then it hasn't spread. That's going to be pretty crucial if you're going to want to treat cancer. Now, another important mutation that cancer cell is going to want to develop in order to really be able to hit it off and go down that evolutionary path is to get a mutation in your DNA for the tumor suppressor genes. Now, those are going to be the ones that are going to help with that programmed cell death, the apoptosis. And once those stop working, you're going to get a whole lot of unregulated cell growth, and that's when cancer is really going to start to take off. Now, going back to the idea of the spread of cells, there's something called metastasis. Now, this is essentially when cancer starts to spread to other parts of the body. Now, it was covered in another presentation, but there's also something called angiogenesis, which is when those cancer tumors are essentially going to spawn their own blood vessels, and it's going to then transport some of those cells to other parts of the body through there. It can also transport through the lymph nodes, which is another way that it's going to really metastasize. And again, something that's important to remember. This is something you really want to avoid. Once it starts spreading to other tissues, you're going to get a whole lot more complications. Even though researchers can predict and follow metabolic pathways, regardless, this is something that you're really going to want to avoid. So in summary, big takeaways are cancer is going to start with mutations. It's going to face evolutionary pressure, things like nutrients, availability of oxygen, how well adapted it is to a new environment when it starts to move, and really one major thing is it's going to want to have a mutation in those tumor suppressor genes. It's also really important if you're going to want to stop cancer, to really catch it early on is really crucial. So that about wraps it up. Here's sources slide and sources for image, and that's the end of the slide. Thanks for tuning in, and thanks for bearing with having to record it like this.